Miguel had worked the night shift at the Cecil long enough to understand one simple rule. Dante asked questions. If a guest swore they heard footsteps echoing in an empty hallway, he just blamed it on old pipes. If someone insisted they saw a shadow crawl under their door, he'd say it was the flickering lights. And when tourists would show him recordings of strange voices they captured in the elevators, he would just shrug. The hotel, you see, ate fear for breakfast. But the week the water turned sweet changed everything for him. At first, it was just a handful of complaints of weird metallic taste, odd pressure in the showers. But then, guests started storming downstairs, absolutely furious, holding up cups of brownish tap water that smelled like rust and something far, far worse. Miguel went down to the basement to check the pipes, but he found nothing unusual. But late that night, when the hotel was quiet and the neon sign outside buzzed like a dying insect, he heard it for the first time. Tapper tap, tap. It wasn't the sound of pipes. It wasn't footsteps. It was something slower, more intentional. It was coming from inside the vents, like someone was tapping a nail on metal from deep within the walls. The next night, the tapping got louder. On the 14th floor, it became rhythmic for taps, a pause. Then 3 taps, and another pause. Miguel pressed his ear against the wallpaper. And the second he did, the tapping synced up with the rhythm of his own breathing. And then, his heart beat. He jerked back in terror. The manager, an older woman with deep-set, haunted eyes and a permanent tremor in her hands, finally gave him the key to the roof. "Check the water tanks," she whispered. "But don't go near the main one." Miguel asked why. Her eyes filled with pure dread. Because that's the one she was last seen near. And that was it. No more explanation. Up on the roof, the city noise felt muffled and distant. The moment he stepped onto the gravel, his radio crackled with static. For black water tanks rose like giant coffins against the night sky. The largest one, the one the manager had warned him about, had warm water dripping down its side, leaving dark trails. Warm. That was impossible in the cold night air. He climbed the ladder, each rung colder than the last. At the top, he paused, just listening. The wind howled. The hotel machinery hummed. And then something moved inside the tank. He lifted the heavy hatch. For a split second, there was nothing, just dark water reflecting the moon. Then two pale hands shot out of the water, slapping the metal rim with a wet crack. The fingers were long and trembling, the skin gray and waterlogged. They clawed blindly, scraping, searching for a grip, but they slipped back beneath the surface with a gurgling splash, leaving perfect circular ripples behind. Miguel fell backward off the ladder, hitting the gravel hard. He didn't even think. He just ran. Down in the security room, the elevator footage of the missing woman, the tourist who had vanished a week earlier, was playing. On a loop. Her frantic behavior had never made sense to anyone. Pressing every button, hiding in the corner, peeking out into the hallway as if something invisible was standing right outside. But tonight, the footage glitched. The timestamp flickered and reset to a date asterisk after asterisk. She had disappeared. It was as if the elevator was still remembering her, as if she had never really left. Miguel didn't sleep that night. By dawn, he'd almost convinced himself that shock had just twisted his mind. But when he returned for his next shift, the night had other plans. The tapping was back, but this time it was coming from his own bathroom. Soft at first, then louder. Tap-a-tap, tap. He approached the vent slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. The tapping stopped. For several seconds, there was only silence. Then a wet, strained whisper seeped through the grate. "I'm still in the pipes." The voice was unmistakably hers. Miguel backed out of the room and didn't go back in until sunrise. The next day, hotel staff found her body inside the main water tank. They called it a tragedy, a horrible accident, an awful but explainable event. But Miguel knew what he had heard. He knew what he had seen. And after that, the hotel didn't quiet down. The water would gurgle at odd hours. Faucets would hiss like someone was whispering through them. Guests started claiming they could hear a woman crying from behind the walls. And the tapping, always the tapping, it just grew louder, sharper, more desperate, as if someone was crawling through the pipes, searching for a way out. On his final night shift, Miguel got a call from room 402. A guest was screaming that the water was moving on its own. When Miguel got to the room, steam filled the air even though the shower was off. The sink was churning with inky black water, swirling in slow circles like something was stirring it from below. And then he heard it again. Tapper, tapper, tap. From the vent, he knelt down, his hands shaking, and unscrewed the grate. Inside the vent, the darkness stretched deeper than it should have, far beyond the building's dimensions. Then something shifted. A pale, dripping hand emerged from the void, trembling as it reached for him, the same hand he saw on the roof, still swollen, still waterlogged, still alive. Miguel, a voice whispered, echoing through the metal. He froze. Miguel, I never left. Suddenly, the pipes under the floor groaned, bulging outward like something enormous was crawling through them, moving up, toward the vent. Toward him, the walls trembled. The tapping became a frantic pounding. He stumbled back just as all the lights shut off. In the complete darkness, her voice filled the room right behind him now. Inside the walls, help me out. He sprinted down the hallway, but the tapping followed him from room to room, chasing him like a heartbeat that wasn't his. Guests opened their doors in confusion as every vent along the hall began knocking in perfect unison. One final, thunderous strike shook the entire floor. And then silence. Miguel quit that night. But even now, guests still report hearing tapping in the walls, always on the 14th floor. Some say they hear a woman whispering through the vents. Others swear they see wet handprints appear on their mirrors. The hotel insists the pipes are just old, but Miguel knows better. Something is still crawling inside them, something that drowned in the dark and simply refuses to stay dead.